Well, good morning and welcome again to Tapestry Church. My name is Pastor Kyle, and let me add my welcome to Pastor Jose's, especially to those of you who are here maybe for the first or second time. We are so grateful that you are here. And in our ongoing commitment to our Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters and to our Spanish-speaking neighbors, we are attempting to translate our sermons or to preach them bilingually. So this morning, I'm going to try to speak both in English and Spanish. So be patient with me. Be patient with me, please. Buenos días y bienvenidos a Tapestry Church. Permítanme agregar mi bienvenida al del Pastor José, especialmente a aquellos de ustedes que están aquí por primera o segunda vez. Estamos muy agradecidos de que estés aquí en nuestro compromiso continuo con nuestros vecinos y hermanas de habla hispana. Estamos tratando de traducir nuestros sermones, como muchos de ustedes saben. Así que esta mañana voy a tratar de hablar tanto en inglés y en español. Así que, por favor, sé paciente conmigo. This morning is the first Sunday in the season of Lent. Esta mañana es el primer domingo del tiempo cristiano de Cuaresma. Lent is not just a Catholic thing. La Cuaresma no es solo una cosa católica. It's a Christian thing. Es una cosa cristiana. It's time for all of us, it's a special season for all of us to sit in and to focus on the fragility of life. It's a time for us to focus on the frailty of our wills and to turn ourselves intentionally back toward God. Es hora de que todos nos concentremos en la fragilidad de la vida, la fragilidad de nuestra voluntad y nos volvamos a Dios. To do that, during Lent, we are starting a series called Expensive Love or Cheap Grace. The story of Hosea. The story of Hosea, a story that shows us in vivid detail the expensive love of God. Para hacer eso, estamos comenzando una serie de sermones hoy enfocándonos en la historia de Oseas, una historia que nos muestra en vívidos detalles del costoso amor de Dios. So let me read our text today from Hosea 1:2 through 2:1. And I'm going to read it just in English just for the sake of time, but the Spanish translation will be on the screen, and it'll be on the screen as well on the live stream, so you can follow along. Permítanme leer nuestro texto de hoy de Oseas 1:2 a 2:1. Porque es muy largo, voy a leer en inglés, pero la traducción está en la pantalla. So let me read that for us now. When the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, "Go marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her. For like an adulterous wife, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord." So he married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Then the Lord said to Hosea, "Call him Jezreel, because I will soon punish the house of Jehu for the massacre at Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of Israel. In that day I will break Israel's bow in the valley of Jezreel." Gomer conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. Then the Lord said to Hosea, "Call her Lo Ruhamah, which means not loved. For I will no longer show love to Israel, that I should at all forgive them. Yet I will show love to Judah, and I will save them, not by bow, sword, or battle, or by horses or horsemen, but I, the Lord their God, will save them." After she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, Gomer had another son. Then the Lord said, "Call him lo a mí, which means not my people. For you are not my people, and I am not your God. Yet the Israelites, let me say that again, yet the Israelites will be like sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted. In the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, they will be called children of the living God. The people of Judah and the people of Israel will come together. They will appoint one leader and will come up out of the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel. Say of your brothers, my people, and of your sisters, my loved one. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Esta es la palabra de Dios. Gracias a Dios. Have you ever been jealous for someone? I see that end. ¿Alguna vez has sentido celos de alguien? Maybe it was a high school crush. Maybe it was the love of your life. Tal vez fue un enamoramiento. Did I get that right? That was a hard one for me in practice. De la escuela secundaria. Tal vez fue el amor de tu vida. Maybe you had a good reason to be jealous. Maybe you did not. Tal vez tenías una buena razón. Tal vez no lo hiciste. But if you've ever been jealous for someone, then you know the passion behind it. You know how your face feels hot and your mind starts racing and your muscles get tense and your stomach feels sick. Pero si alguna vez has estado celoso de alguien, entonces conoces la pasión que hay detrás. Ya sabes cómo se siente tu cara caliente. Tu mente comienza a correr. Tus músculos se tensan y tu estómago se siente enfermo. I remember feeling that way myself. Let's say not a long time ago in college about my wife Stephanie over there when we first met. And it didn't take me long to fall in love with her. The problem was it didn't take the other guys that long either. As you can understand if you know her. Recuerdo sentirme así por Stephanie cuando nos conocimos. No me tomó mucho tiempo this one's hard. Enamorarme de ella. El problema era, a otros chicos tampoco les tomó mucho tiempo. So I lived pretty consistently for a little while with that feeling of jealousy. And I didn't have as good a reason as God. But like I said before, if you've ever felt that, you know the place of wild passion that jealousy comes from. The emotions are intense. And they swing turbulently from side to side. Así que viví bastante consistentemente con ese sentimiento de celos. Y como dije antes, si alguna vez has sentido eso, sabes el lugar de pasión casi salvaje del que provienen los celos. Las emociones son intensas y se balancean turbulentamente de un lado a otro. You feel intense love, and then in the same heartbeat, powerful anger. Right? Sientes un amor intenso y luego, en el mismo latido del corazón, ira poderoso. You feel a deep sense of loss, but at the same time, a desire to hold on tight. Right? Sientes una profunda sensación de pérdida, pero al mismo tiempo un deseo a aferrarte fuerte. When you're jealous, your behavior, your speech, even your facial expressions and your body language, they seem unpredictable and inconsistent, even downright volatile to the people around you. Cuando estás celoso, tu comportamiento, tu forma de hablar, incluso tus expresiones faciales y tu lenguaje corporal pueden parecer impredecibles y inconsistentes para las personas que te rodean. And if you read the book of Hosea, the whole book, all the way through, you will find that is exactly how it feels. Unpredictable, inconsistent. Y si lees el libro de Oseas, eso es exactamente lo que se siente. See, when you're, it's unpredictable, it's back and forth, it's inconsistent. I love you, but I hate you, but I love you. That's how Hosea feels. Es impredecible, de ida y vuelta, inconsistente. Te amo, pero te odio, pero te amo. And this is exactly the radical idea that Hosea has to share with us. God is a lover. God is a lover, a wildly passionate, jealous husband to a faithless people. Y esta es precisamente la idea radical que Oseas tiene para compartir con nosotros. Dios es un amante, es un esposo salvajemente apasionado y celoso de una esposa infiel. You see, we read in verse 2 that God actually instructs Hosea the prophet to, quote, go marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her. For, like an adulterous wife, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord. Hosea's family life was meant to be a living prophecy to God's relationship with his people. Leemos en versículo 2 que Dios en realidad instruye a Oseas, ve, cásate con una mujer promiscua y tener hijos con ella, porque como una mujer adultera, esta tierra es culpable de infidelidad al Señor. Now, the truth is, we don't know what Gomer's sexual history was. We don't. We don't know if she had committed adultery in a previous marriage, or if she was a sex worker, or if there was something else going on in her story. Our English and Spanish translations are actually more specific sounding than the Hebrew word that's used in the original text. Ahora, la verdad es que no sabemos cuál fue la historia sexual de Gomer. No sabemos si cometió adulterio en un matrimonio anterior o si era trabajadora sexual. O si había algo más en su historia. Nuestras traducciones en inglés y al español son en realidad más específicas que las del hebreo. But in our world of reality TV and political scandals, we're used to knowing and we want to know the details. But I'm going to put this out here this morning. Hosea isn't a tabloid. It's a prophecy. En nuestro mundo de reality shows y escándalos políticos, queremos los detalles. Pero Oseas no es un tabloide, es una profecía. And this is important because it's important for us to just say out of the gate, because this story has been used to demonize people, especially women, with what some people might consider checkered sexual past. Y esto es importante porque esta historia se ha utilizado para demonizar a las personas, especialmente a las mujeres con pasados sexuales accidentados. But that is not what the story is actually about. In fact, it's not about sex at all. It's about faithlessness. Pero de eso no se trata la historia. No se trata de sexo en absoluto en realidad. Se trata de la infidelidad. Whatever Gomer's actions were, when we don't know what they amounted to faithlessness. She could not be trusted to prioritize the marriage that she had committed herself to. Las acciones de Gomer equivalían a deslealtad. No se podía confiar en ella para priorizar el matrimonio con el que se había comprometido. And God is saying in this passage that this is exactly what my people have been like. Y Dios está diciendo así, es exactamente como es mi pueblo. In fact, Hosea's whole family is a living, breathing prophecy of God's relationship with the people of Israel. De hecho, toda la familia de Oseas es una profecía viviente de la relación de Dios con el pueblo de Israel. And so we see Gomer and Hosea. This is hard. I feel for you, man. And so we see Gomer and Hosea have 3 children. And remember, it's not just Gomer that represents Israel. It's the whole family. It's the household. And so they have 3 children. The first one is named Jezreel, a name that's spelled like in Hebrew and sounds like Israel. It's meant to tie Hosea's family to the story of Israel. Y así vemos que Gomer y Oseas tienen 3 hijos, uno llamado Jezreel, nombre que se escribe y suena como Israel. And the next one, their daughter, the Lord told them to name her Lo Ruhamah, which means not loved. Or in some translations, no mercy. Because God's patience with Israel had come to its end. The next, let me say that again. Uno llamado, la hija, Lo Ruhamah, significa no amado o sin piedad, porque la paciencia de Dios con Israel estaba llegando a su fin. And the next son was named Lo Ami, which literally translates to not my people. And this one is the one that hurts when you read it because of its resonance with the rest of the Old Testament, with the language of covenant. For you are not my people, and I am not your God. Y uno llamado Lo Ami significa no mi gente. Y este es el que duele mucho, porque ustedes no son mi pueblo, y yo no soy su Dios. It's a reversal. This language is a reversal of the covenant promise language that God made when he made a pact, a promise, a covenanted relationship with Israel. And he said, I will be your God, and you will be my people. Es una revocación de la promesa del pacto que Dios e Israel celebraron cuando le dijo a Abraham, yo seré su Dios y ustedes son mi gente, mi pueblo. Do you see what Hosea is saying? ¿Ves lo que dice Oseas? When it comes to our sin, what the Bible calls turning away from God and turning to other things or other people, when it comes to our sin, God is not a dispassionate judge. That's not what he is. Cuando se trata de nuestro pecado, lo que la Biblia llama alejarnos de Dios, Dios no es solo un juez despasionado. He is not a heavenly accountant either. No es un contador celestial. He's not sitting there going, Okay, well, there's one bad action, and there's two good actions. Oops, that's four bad actions. I guess this one isn't getting into heaven. That's not what God is doing. Right? No es un contador. Él no está sentado ahí diciendo, okay, bueno, hay una mala acción, hay dos buenas acciones. Esas son cuatro malas acciones. Supongo que no irá al cielo. No, God is not concerned with your record. He's not concerned with your scorecard. God is concerned with your love. No, Dios no le importa tu historial ni tu tarjeta de puntuación. Dios se preocupa por tu amor, su relación contigo, your relationship with Him. He's wildly jealous of your love for Him, of as a people, our commitment to Him. Está tremendamente celoso de nuestro amor por Él, nuestro compromiso con Él. And the results of our sin, Hosea is saying the results of our sin, the results of our turning away from God it isn't a bad scorecard or an imbalanced ledger. It's a dismantled relationship. Y el resultado de nuestro pecado no es solo una mala tarjeta de puntuación, sino una relación desmantelada. This morning, I want you to ask yourself the question, what does it feel like to know that God is jealous for you? What does it feel like to know that God is jealous for you? ¿Cómo es saber que Dios está celoso por ti? ¿Te da miedo? Is it scary? ¿Se siente vulnerable? Does it feel vulnerable? ¿Sientes que hay más en juego de lo que pensabas? Does it feel like the stakes are higher than you thought? What is it like to know that God is jealous for you? ¿Cómo es saber que Dios está celoso por ti? Can you actually believe that this is how passionately God feels about you? This is how passionately God feels about you. Not like an accountant, not like a judge, but like a lover. ¿Puedes creer que así de apasionadamente Dios siente por ti? Israel no doubt did not think that their behavior was all that bad. Israel sin duda no pensó que su comportamiento fuera tan malo. But what if our prioritizing of other things over God, trusting of other things over God, doing things all the while knowing that is not what God would have called us to do, what if we knew that it elicited this kind of passion from God? Pero ¿qué pasaría si priorizáramos otras cosas sobre Dios? Confiáramos en otras cosas sobre Dios, hiciéramos todo sabiendo que eso no es lo que Dios quiere que hiciéramos. ¿Qué pasaría si supiéramos que provocó este tipo de pasión de Dios? Well, I'll be honest with you about how it makes me feel initially. At first, this truth makes me feel horrible. It makes me feel horrible. Bueno, seré honesto contigo. Para mí, al principio, esta verdad me hace sentir horrible. You see, when God is my accountant, I can try and balance out one action with another action, a bad action with a good action. Right? Verás, cuando Dios es solo mi contador, puedo tratar de equilibrar una mala acción con dos buenas. When God is my judge, I can try and rationalize my actions and explain them, my motivations behind them, and why I might not deserve the punishment that I might expect others would get for these kinds of behaviors. Cuando Dios es mi juez, puedo tratar de racionalizar mis acciones y explicar por qué no merezco lo que merecen otros que hacen lo mismo. But when God is my spouse, the one that I've walked out on, the one I've wounded, the one who is justifiably angry with me, nothing I can do is going to fix that. Nothing I can do can explain it away or balance it out. The relationship is ruptured, and it requires repair from the other side. Pero cuando Dios es mi cónyuge, el que abandonado, herido, enojado con razón, nada de lo que pueda hacer lo arreglará. Nada de lo que pueda hacer lo explicará. La relación se rompe. But I'll be honest with you again, even though it makes me feel horrible initially, I would rather God was my lover than my judge or my accountant. I would rather God was my lover than my judge or my accountant. Prefiero tener un Dios que está furioso porque me alejo de Él, que un Dios al que no le importa. I'd rather have a God who is furious with me about turning away from Him or walking out on Him than a God who doesn't care. Right? Because, you know why? Because the opposite of love isn't anger, it's apathy. Prefiero que Dios sea mi amante que mi contador o mi juez. ¿Sabes por qué? Porque lo opuesto al amor no es la ira. No es la ira, es apatía. I'd rather have a God who is furious with me about turning away from Him than a God who doesn't care, who doesn't even rate it. I would rather that, because that jealousy comes from a deep, deep well of love and desire. And how many of our issues in our own lives today come from a deep, deep need to be not just cared about, but desired like that? Prefiero tener un Dios que está furioso porque me alejo de Él que un Dios al que no le importa, porque esos celos vienen de un pozo muy profundo de amor y deseo. And the good news, friends, the good news this morning that we see glimmers of in this text, but we see fully in Christ, is that His desire for us, His love for us, has overcome His justifiable anger with us. Y la buena noticia es que su deseo por nosotros, su amor por nosotros, ha vencido su justa ira hacia nosotros. Y Oseas incluso ve venir ese día. And Hosea even sees this day coming. He sees this day coming, and he says this at the end of the passage we read today: Yet, the Israelites will be like sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted. In the place where it was said to them, "You are not my people," they will be called children of the living God. Sin embargo, los israelitas serán como la arena a la orilla del mar, que no se puede medir ni contar. En el lugar donde les fue dicho, vosotros no sois mi pueblo, serán llamados hijos del Dios viviente. And then he goes on to say of your brothers, di sobre de tus hermanos, you are my people, pueblo mío. Y of your sisters, remember lo ruhama, not loved, say of your sisters, amada mía, my loved one. Do you see what he's saying? He's saying that even though we broke up with God, God is never breaking up with us. ¿Ves lo que él está diciendo? Está diciendo que aunque rompimos con Dios, Él nunca romperá con nosotros. Even though we have been faithless to the covenant, and I'm just going to speak for myself, I have been over and over somebody who has followed another desire before my desire for God. And maybe I'm the only one in this room. But I've done that. I've been there. And Hosea is saying, even though we are faithless to the covenant, God will always be faithful to His commitment to us. Aunque fuéramos infieles al pacto, Dios siempre será fiel a su compromiso a nosotros. Hosea envisions a day when his daughter, Lo Ruhamah, not loved, will no longer be called that, but she'll be called loved. When his son, Lo Ami, not my people, will be called my people. O sea, se imagina un día en que su hija no será llamada no amada, sino amada. Cuando su hijo no será llamado Lo Ami, pueblo no mío, sino pueblo mío. And even if Hosea never got to see that day, because he didn't live to see that day, we have gotten to see that day in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. Y incluso si Oseas nunca llegó a ver ese día, pudimos verlo en la vida, muerte y resurrección de Jesucristo. If you can see the passion of God anywhere, you can see it in the fact that He came all the way from heaven to earth to pursue us. If you can see the anger of God at evil and sin anywhere, you can see it in the fact that it took the death of the very Son of God to save us. If you can see the undying desire of God anywhere, you can see it in the fact that He was willing to go to the grave for us. And if you can see the faithfulness of God anywhere, you can see it in the fact that not even death could keep Him from fulfilling His promise of abundant life for us when He raised Jesus from the dead. Si puedes ver la pasión de Dios en cualquier parte, puedas verla en el hecho de que vino desde el cielo hasta la tierra para perseguirnos. Si puedes ver la ira de Dios por el mal y el pecado en cualquier lugar, puedes verlo en el hecho de que el Hijo de Dios tuvo que ser clavado en un cruz para salvarnos. Si puedes ver el deseo eterno de Dios por nosotros en cualquier parte, puedes verlo en el hecho de que estuvo dispuesto a ir a la tumba por nosotros. Si puedes ver la fidelidad de Dios hacia nosotros en cualquier parte, puedes verla en el hecho de que ni siquiera la muerte pudo impedirle cumplir su promesa de vida abundante y resucitar a Jesús de entre los muertos. You see, when we understand the passion of God for us, when we really feel the passion of God for us, we are, yes, confronted by how damaging our sin really is to that relationship. But that just shows us how much greater is His love for us that has overcome it. Verá, cuando comprendemos la pasión de Dios por nosotros, ¿sí? Nos enfrentamos con cuán dañino es nuestro pecado en realidad. Pero eso nos muestra cuánto más grande es el amor de Dios por nosotros. Beloved of God, Ruhamah, I pray that as you meditate on the cross of Jesus this Lent, that you would know, you would know the intensity of God's anger at your sin, only so that you can know the immense joy of his even greater love for and commitment to you. Amado de Dios, oro para que mientras meditas en la cruz de Jesús esta cuaresma, conozcas la intensidad de la ira de Dios por tu pecado, solo para que conozcas la inmensa alegría de su amor aún mayor por ti, su pueblo. Amén y amén.